I remember there was a point in time I was having a conversation with a good friend of both Rachelle and I about mission work, and they're very involved in the groundwork of mission work, in getting out there and going to the poorest countries and helping people on the ground. But this friend, she sort of made it very clear to us that God doesn't call everyone to do that, and the people that are out there in the field, they need people like us behind, financially secure, to be able to support them in the work that they do. That's just as important, and we really felt together that that's what God, or who God called us to be.
The other thing I think as well is that there's no ability to be generous when you have nothing to be generous with. And I've always been a generous person. That was probably the way I was raised. My parents worked for a mission organisation, and they lived on the donations of others. I got to see firsthand how God provides when you trust Him, and how God uses people to be generous. And that was how I always wanted to be. But it got to the point where we weren't able to do that because we just didn't have the resources, and that was something that was truly heartbreaking for me.
We kind of found ourselves in debt just really by not keeping track of what we were doing. We just weren't being careful with what we were spending. We just thought we were normal. We had all the things that normal people had: a credit card, a car loan, all that sort of thing. But there was a particular series that came up at Elevate where God really spoke to us. It was a series about money. It was a series about how to handle your finances the way God has laid it out to. So it was kind of at that point where we realised, hang on, maybe there's a few things we need to change about the way we're going about this.
The first thing that we really knew we had to do was create a budget and get strict with tracking our spending. So of the two of us, we both have our gifts and strengths, and Jared's strength is definitely more on the side of finances and that kind of thing. So we decided together that he would be the one to put the budgets together, come to me to discuss whether or not I thought that they would work, and that then he would track all of our expenditure in this fantastic budgeting app called Good Budget. So it's a really easy way to track what we're spending as we're spending it.
It was still really a partnership the way we went about it. Together we still agreed on what to or not to spend the money on.
It was important for us to continue giving 10% because I believe that it's really important to honour God with our first and best, and if you're not doing that, He really doesn't have the ability to work through the remaining 90%. It's how do you trust God with your finances? Do you want to try and do it all yourself, or do you want to trust that we have a God of amazing provision?
We saw God work through our commitment to getting out of debt a number of times along the way. There were a lot of small wins along the way, and I think that was part of following this process called the debt snowball. The way that's laid out is exactly designed for that, for having these small little wins along the way, for keeping you motivated.
God actually also blessed us throughout the process, and He actually enabled us to pay off debt quicker than we expected through these blessings that He provided to us. In that time frame as well, we were also able to buy a new house in the suburb that we had always been dreaming about living in. Though it might sound like that's just getting more stuff, it actually, what it is for us is that it's allowed us to have a home and a place to invite people so that we can create relationships and friendships by sharing this beautiful place that we now live.
So now that we've finished this journey of getting rid of this debt that we had, there's just so much blessing that God's opened up, and really one of the big ones for me is just the amount of stress level that is not there anymore. There's a lot less stress. We used to have a couple of brand new cars, really nice flash cars, but they're gone now, and what we're driving is a 10-year-old little Hyundai. There's just no stress. It's a joy to drive this thing. I love this little car. And it's a manual, so it's good fun, like a rally car.
Our friends who we were discussing earlier are now working for an international organisation called Wipe Every Tear. They work freeing women who are victims of the sex trade in the Philippines, and we're able to support them month to month in their work, which is so incredible, and the stories that come out and the lives that are changed from that are just amazing. We have the flexibility to be able to say, okay, we're going to give something toward that because we really feel as though we should. We feel that it's something that God wants us to give to.
We've got a nice overseas holiday planned. It's our 10-year wedding anniversary that we're celebrating, but we're also using that as a bit of a celebration of having completed this journey, of having paid this debt off, to be able to really, just keep going forward for God.
And we're just really excited to be able to see what he has in store for us in the future.
Yeah.